Did you want to reuse your foam latex prosthetic, but you didn't remove it so great, and now it's ripped to shreds and super damaged? Okay, well maybe I'm projecting just a little, because that's my current situation. Thanks to being a little too impatient to get out of makeup, I need to repair these pieces. And you can learn how to resurrect your own prosthetics. First thing I'm gonna look at is for any edges that need saving. As far as I see it, the edges are the most important part. Like this spot is completely folded over. Using alcohol to gently release the fold. Now, this is something you definitely wanna do sooner than later, but my pieces have been sitting around for 4 years. So this edge is basically permanently folded. Sadly, I'm just gonna cut it away and deal with that blunt edge when I go to apply it. There are gonna be some spots that just need to be trimmed off. Save what you can. If your piece had very thin edges, chances are a lot of it is not gonna survive removal. They're just too delicate. Now this is actually 3 pieces, a face, a cowl, and a neck piece. To reapply it, I can't keep it attached like this. But before removing the face, I'm gonna fix this jaw because it's hanging on by a thread. And I do not want it to completely tear when I go to remove the face off the cowl. I'm using silicone adhesive because it's super strong, but you can use Prosaide or Bond when repairing prosthetics. Now, if you were just gonna go and glue this back in place, it's not gonna have any strength. And being that it's so close to the mouth, any kind of movement or tension could completely rip that tear open again. So that's why I like to reinforce it. For this, I use this mesh. It has a little bit of a stretch. Also like that the open weave gives the glue more to grab onto to really give it an extra hold. You could also use nylon. Just want to glue the mesh down on one side, and I add more of the glue over the material to really lock it down. And now just carefully put those puzzle pieces back together. Powder it once everything's down. The last thing you need is it sticking to something and then you rip it. No! And now you have a new thing to repair. The nice thing about the mesh is it also works as a foundation too. I'm missing some of the scales at the jawline, so I'm gonna use this mesh to fill that gap. We're just gonna leave that for later. Okay, the face is less fragile. Let's get this thing off the cowl. Using alcohol with a little bit of tension to remove it. Take your time, you do not need more problems to fix. And the alcohol should really be doing all the work to release the pieces. Did stop a few times to powder the sections. This can be a very sticky process. And we're free, and just powder everything. Now let's tackle that lip. And you'll also be able to get a better look on what's going on inside of the piece when patching. I do like to add some extra glue onto the material where it is stuck on the foam for extra hold. Some of these areas I did double up in the fabric because I misjudged how much I needed. Now the tears are glued and reinforced. Let's address those missing spots and any gaps using Bondo. This is a thickened glue. You take either Prosaide or Bond and mix it with Cabosil to create a paste. Make sure you're wearing a mask when working with Cabosil. This stuff is super lightweight and gets into the air very easily. With this paste, I'm gonna fill in any gaps and you can smooth it with water. It will shrink a little once it dries. You may have to go over it a couple times depending on how deep the repair is. Now we still have to replace those missing scales, and this is why I left the mesh exposed. It's gonna give us a surface to build on. First, I'm just gonna lightly smooth it out, then with the spatula, start to carve those scales back in. You can go back in with the brush to refine it more if you need to. This is gonna work for those chunks that got taken out by the horns. Now, after all these repairs, you're basically just gonna go ahead and take a 50-50 mix of Prosaide and acrylic paint and just repaint a base color. This is also known as Pax paint. This will give you a fresh base and a new life for your prosthetics. Now, there are a few tricks that can protect your pieces if you're planning on reusing them. Click the next video to learn some tips that can hopefully save you from having to do all of this extra repair work once your prosthetic's removed.